game design podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me, as always, is the wonderful Benson.
I am here, and we are locked down again.
Yeah!
As of 1 hour ago.
So, actually, yes, it is almost exactly 1 hour ago. 1 hour and 3 minutes to be precise. We're recording this on the 5th of the 8th, 2021.
As Victoria enters its sixth lockdown, just scant days, really, after coming out of our last one. So we did get 1 week of recording non-lockdown ones, but I think let's do another lockdown episode. Because
it seems to be the new way that we do it. Any time that we go into a lockdown, we go back into lockdown games.
It gives us an interesting little restriction. So in the past couple we've sort of just tried to set it in a small-ish area that, you know, that the player generally can't leave. I think we go further. I think we literally lock it way down and set every game within like a 2 meter square area.
Oh, I don't know whether that's I can move further than 2 meter squares.
Yeah, I know, but this is the restriction. I'm saying. Are you saying we should go further? 1 meter. 1 meter. Now, look, that doesn't mean we can't cheat and do like tiny things in that area, but in real world space, it's a 2 meter square area. We have to figure out that your character is in. Well, yeah, not the whole world.
Yeah.
Your character and the game, and yeah, your character has to stay within that space.
So, is it the same 2 meter space if you're in a personal spacecraft?
I mean, yes and no. Yes, as I think we can.
You haven't moved from your 2 meter area, so therefore, the game Quarantine, where you're in a taxi cab, is effectively a lockdown game in this way of thinking.
That's fine.
Because you never get out of your
I'm
cab.
I'm not here to stifle creativity. It's supposed to increase the creativity. So yes, that's creative. That's fine. If it can be within some sort of self-contained vehicle, as long as your player does not leave the vehicle in the game. Mm-hmm. It's just more about or if they do, then it has to fit within that 2 meter square. So you can have 1 square meter over here and then another square meter over here. So
and a little passageway in between.
If we're doing a Bill and Ted game, you can have the phone booth and you can have the little area just around the phone booth. That's it.
It's a game set on the movie Phone Booth.
We already did that. We did that actually.
Did we?
Yeah. We said it. We said a movie in a phone booth, and there was like aliens attacking and stuff. Yeah.
God, I've got to listen to this show.
There's some good stuff in this show, Bitstorm. These guys come up with some funny stuff. Cool ideas.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're 4 minutes into this, and they still haven't even started. So
I know it's amazing, and I don't even think Trevor's going to be able to edit it out. Let's do it. So we're going to play Ramped Up Click Pitch. This is a game where we each have a random word generated in front of us, and on the count of 3 to 1 click, we're going to get an adjective and noun and throw them at each other and make a game. So let's do it.
Subjective lightning.
Upper registration.
A small area.
In a small area. Lightening made me think of like hair, perhaps like hair bleaching or something.
Ooh. I kind of like the idea that, yes, hairdresser, it's in the back of a van. So it's like a mobile hairdresser that comes to you and people enter the van and
I thought you were going to say they just like kidnap people off the street, give them bad haircuts and then put them back out onto the street to the jeers of their peers.
You control both the driving of the vehicle and the haircutting inside.
Okay, or could it be a multiplayer? Could this be an asymmetrical VR and gamepad game where one person is having to do haircuts in VR and the other person is having to drive around, but of course the movement of the car is making like their subject move, and you don't want to stab them in the head as you go around a corner because your sharp scissors are in the wrong spot.
Because you can only reach so far and you can't actually move in the game, like there's obviously a thing there that the only way to reach those scissors is if they're turning, whichever way it is, and okay, you've got them. Like it's coming. Like
so you have to communicate to the driver. It's like, all right, hard left so I can get the scissors as they swing over.
Yeah.
Well, I like that. Or maybe all of your tools are on sort of various things that will swing in. Yeah, you swing in different ways, and yes, you have to have them take the right maneuvers.
Okay. One of the things that I have seen in some of these games before is where a character, they can only reach so far, and after that it will just become like a ghost hand.
Yeah.
So basically it's reaching to the furthest extent. So you're going to have to put something like that in so people can't just go, I want these scissors and like get them at any time.
Yeah, you'd have to put some sort of physical restraints on the actual like in-game hands, I guess. Yes.
Now, are they on bungee cords so that when you grab them and you put them down, when you let go, it just flicks back up?
Well, no, because what I was going to say actually is that like
if you cut the bungee cords,
like if you drop your scissors, it's like, oh shit, you need to take like a huge jump so that like as you take the jump and everything flies up in the air, you can catch it out of midair and put it back where it needs to go. But the bungee cords isn't a bad idea either. Although you'd need to be careful about how they bounce. You don't want to let them go with too much potential energy there. And
also you don't want to cut the bungee cords because then you've got to deal with the situation that you would.
Yeah, that's a challenge. Yeah.
Oh, bungee cord got in the way, and you thought it was hair, but no, it was bungee cord.
Like, if it gets in the way, exactly. Well, then you have to do the like go down a steep drop maneuver,
and then
everything
do a
essentially
tying
goes
motion.
you go into like free fall. Everything's like there's no gravity for a second. It's floating around the cabin,
and everything just falls back down. What's actually happening why is the driver driving?
I think it's almost like they're almost doing a crazy taxi sort of, where someone needs a haircut, but they're only going to wait so long. Hoon over there, pick them up, they get in the back. Then the VR person has a certain amount of time. They say what they want, or they show a picture or something, and you learn your techniques over time, putting in rollers, cutting the hair in different positions in different ways, putting in product to mold the hair in some manner, and then you'll get points essentially for how well you did and how fast you did it.
And whether you had to demold the hair, like as in literally it's moldy and therefore you could have like demold
you could
the
have some
hair.
different things that you add over time. Like they get in and you see stink lines coming off it, so you have to like
or mushrooms.
Wash it
like
there's mushrooms in the back. Gross. But you have to get your sprayer and that like you'll clean the hair first, shampoo it and stuff. And then you need to get your next one, and that's basically it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. 3, 2, 1.
There you go. We did it. 3, 2, 1. Click. Insidious 50.
Lane orientation.
Oh, okay.
Which really would have worked well for the last one as well.
Isn't there a horror movie called Insidious, like a series?
Yes.
So this is the 50th one. They've really run out of ideas.
It's set in space.
Okay.
And keeping with the whole, obviously lockdown thing, you're in a vehicle.
Yep.
You're kind of flying around in your vehicle, but there's effectively something paranormal going on in your very small vehicle.
Okay, so bringing some horror into a space sort of thing.
Because in space, no one can hear you scream.
This is true.
Yes.
This is a known fact.
Yes.
Oxygen is required.
Except if you've got radios and then they can hear as long as they've tuned into the same radio. But, it effectively like the sound
that would have made
the
saying much too long.
At first, you're driving along, you're in the middle of like a pretty much a space freeway.
Yep.
But it's backed up. So you see other cars around.
Okay.
You look over to the side and you see someone banging silently on their window as they all of a sudden get dragged away, and there's just like bloody fingerprints.
Okay.
And every now and again, if you look around, like there's different light flashes sort of happening, and something's attacking people within these cars.
And of course, being in space, like there's no obvious means of them getting between or into these airtight, vehicles that have airlocks and things. That's not bad. That could be I don't know if that's the start. Or I was almost thinking, because I like the idea of, I like it in space. I was kind of thinking you're like the space equivalent of like a long haul trucker.
Yep.
Because then you've got those like long stretches of nothingness, but you've got like the radio going to like keep you company. You've maybe, you know, when you get within range of people, you have like this sort of CB kind of culture happening, but in
literally
space.
short range radio. And when we say short range, we're talking maybe a parsec or two.
Yeah. Which, you know, in the depths of space, that's short.
Yeah, it's quite short. What I do love is the idea that there may be certain shortcuts that you can make on your trip. It's kind of like if we take a Star Wars analogy of the Kessel Run.
Yeah.
The reason why they actually say, and if you watch Solo, the Kessel Run is usually done in a certain way because it's very dangerous to
go off that
not
path.
Do it, go off that path. I like the idea of there's a reason why you have navigation buoys that you're sort of going off towards and doing the next one, because effectively you're going between this part of space that has been
like
known.
It's like nebulae.
It's like it's the Bermuda Pyramid of space. I say pyramid because it's got
three dimensions. Yeah,
it's 3 dimensions.
Yeah,
because I love the idea that you get trapped at once. You take a shortcut during this one thing, and you happen to pull something out of this area. And when you get into the
you've
when you actually
like
get into the
infected everyone else
the outside of your ship,
yeah,
and it's made into other people's ships, and then sort of goes through until finally it attacks your ship as like the last sort of thing.
And look, we don't have to explain it too much. I think taking a shortcut through a spooky pyramid area, and then you make your way back into sort of more populated areas, and that's when you start seeing these things happening with your own eyes. I think before that, you've maybe like there's a couple of the people who you talk to on the road, and you know generally where they are, but they go offline, like they go radio silent when you wouldn't expect them to, and then you like start getting into the populated areas and realizing, oh shit, like there's something that's somehow like literally getting into the cabins of these ships and killing people, and you can't see them, and what are they? And they're a creepy doll or something.
Ooh, you change the radio station and you hear someone screaming. Yeah. And then it goes silent.
Yeah.
And then you change the radio station, the channel again, and it's like you hear another person sort of saying, what's going on out there? Oh my God, what the fuck is going on?
What are the things? I'm almost thinking, I mean, again, we don't have to explain it. It could just be weird, creepy ghost things, but sci-fi, it is sometimes fun to get the techno babble in there. I wonder if these are, if it's actually that there's like some sort of sentient spore cloud that you've essentially gone through and they've hooked onto you, and they're like a hive mind kind of deal.
Yeah, I like that, and I also like interdimensional beings that,
interdimensional spores. There you go. Yeah, essentially this pyramid area is like a long dormant, set of reproductive like spores from this interdimensional being. They feed off brainwaves essentially or something, right? So you've not only given it your own to feed off of, but then sort of carted them halfway across the galaxy to where there are plenty to feed on.
So there's got to be a reason as to why they haven't attacked you yet.
Yeah.
And they've attacked everyone else.
Yeah.
And I think it's got to do with the air freshener that you pick up at the very start.
Fends off all interdimensional beings, guaranteed.
I think it's one of these things of, again, you go through a drive-through sort of gas station thing, and one of the things that you see is he maybe he spilled some really horrible food, and so he gets the air freshener and he puts that in there, and
I love the idea of I love the idea of these like little airlocks and stuff that say you go through a drive-through and it hooks up a little airlock between you and the thing.
And then you can wind down your window because I love the idea that it's an actual wind down.
Still got to wind down. Just make sure you connect it to an airlock when you do it. There's actually no safety on it. It's just, because we're truckers and that would, we don't need the government telling us when or when not to put down our windows.
I'm just imagining that there's a scene right at the very start that says, maybe it's an advert that's running at the gas station saying, "Don't wind down the window until this happens." And you see a trucker that just go explosive decompression, and he gets pulled out of the window like in the ad.
Yeah, and the guy at the drive-through just like taps the sign, and then like a robotic thing comes and hauls away their truck, and then it's your turn to come up to the window. Because they see it happen all the time. It's like, fucking idiots. You didn't wait for the green light.
Sorry, green light's busted. Just wait till I tap on it.
Wait till I give you the thumbs up. Wait till I give you the signal.
No.
Wait, was that the signal?
Yeah.
You raised your eyebrows. Was that the signal? It must have been. All right. 3, 2,
oh my
1,
God. That's so great.
Ambient mood.
Baffled rotation.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if this would work, so let me get it out first.
Mm-hmm.
My mind went to, because ambient mood just made me think of like sort of a very hippie-ish vibe or something. Do you know those like hammock pods? Like it's like a cloth sort of hammock thing that's just hanging from one point in the ceiling that you can kind of wrap yourself around.
Yep.
My mind just went to a game somehow set in one of those, and it can like it rotates, and that's where rotation came into it. I don't know. I mean, it could be kind of fun to be using VR or something to like reach out to like rotate, to push yourself around and just be rotating to reach different areas and stuff. But anyway, what was yours? We'll see.
So I don't think mine's going to work either, but baffle is something that's very important to a speaker.
Right.
Because without a baffle, the sound can actually affect the back part of the driver. So you use a baffle to sort of separate the driver and the sound going out from the back of it, so it can't cancel it out.
Yep.
So the baffle actually makes it sound a lot better. I like the idea that because you said ambience and all this sort of stuff, that you're trying to find the right resonant point for like a speaker, maybe going with your hippie idea of you're sort of in like this small little hippies van or something like that, and you're just trying to get the ambience set right.
I like the idea that
and speakers is one part of it.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the Sims, but within like a hippies van, and you just setting up the van and getting the ambience right.
Well, no, instead of it being a van, I think this is and look, here's how we can cheat a little bit. It is a 2 meter by 2 meter square tiny house, but it has levels. So it's like those houses that are built in a container, but they've tipped the container up on its side, so it goes up multiple stories. It's a multiple story tiny house. And you being this like hippie who believes in auras and different things, you're like positioning speakers and like changing the frequencies of them to like get the Feng Shui, moving, the energy moving through your space properly. And you have ways of visualizing that. And so, yes, it's essentially putting objects in the space and sound in the space and maybe like even airflow or something, like you've got little fans or something. Like you're trying to balance these different things. And I think that works well for a small area because you've got limited options. So it's almost like a puzzle game. It's either almost like a puzzle game or just like it is like this ambient game where you're just trying to get it right, like feeling right. Maybe there's no actual win condition. You just
now I just feel this hippie just lives in an elevator and just goes up and down between the different floors.
Yes, I like that. This is it's like a communal building that these people have taken over. It's like an old office building. Maybe they're just squatting there, like it's an abandoned office building. Let's not make them squatters. They've bought it as a commune.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, this person feels strongly about their small space and they've set themselves up in an elevator. That's where they live. That's their house.
Yep.
And the different floors all have like different factions essentially of these like hippies who all believe different things. Like you've got the musical hippies on one floor and you've got like the anti-vax hippies and nobody visits that floor because they're all diseased. And you've got
but this is a pretty crazy elevator, kind of like, not necessarily the great glass elevator, but I'm thinking more around, it's got 2 exits. So you sometimes have to rotate round to actually get, like, if you got to a certain level, you need to make sure that, you know, you're facing the right exit so that if you need to get water or something like that, they've got a thing of water there for you to pick up. But the doors are only open for so long. Like,
yeah, so I'm sort of picturing the gameplay as it is almost a little bit like The Sims, where you're setting up your space and you've got shelves that you can place and you can put different things on them, but that you do then have some sort of vision mode where it like visualizes the energy flow as this person believes it going through this space.
It's 2 meter space, like it's a service elevator basically.
Yeah. But it's, you know, it's this fairly detailed. You'll see like the little eddies of. It's like, oh, the energy from the speaker that's coming here is flowing really strongly, but when it hits the plant that's over here, it's actually like dispersing too much, so I need to move that plant, and you can see the effect of it, and it'll like, oh, now it's bouncing off that wall nicely, like.
And if I put a nice poster there, I can actually absorb it for a little bit and then amplify it.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's an element of learning the different effects that different things in this space will have on this completely arbitrary energy, you know, idea.
You've always got to be sort of thinking while you're awake, you want the best flow of energy. And as, you know, people are using your space and their happiness is based off of how good the flow
is. Oh, wait,
is.
so you're thinking people are still using this elevator as an elevator?
Yes.
Okay. I was just thinking that like you'd taken one elevator and that was your house, but okay.
It is your house, but this is a service that you provide. It's why you can afford this. Yeah. Because people actually, you know, pay for the use of your...
Well, but they pay you they trade. Like this is a, you know, there's no concept of money in this commune.
Yeah. So that they trade in like feelings and
well, no, I think they trade. I think this is where you get some of the objects and things that are in your room, like in your space. So I think like you might get you get like a broken guitar from the music hippies, but that actually, you know, when you put it up on the wall here, gives a really good energy because, you know, why, for whatever reason, you know, we come up with different ways that these things.
And then you got the speakers that you can put up from like the ambience or something like that.
Yeah. And you've got these different things and if you need stuff, like there might almost be it's weird to say like a survival aspect, but like you have needs going forward. And so sometimes you have to trade these things away. So it's this constantly shifting space because you're having to trade elements of it away. And maybe different floors of the building want different types of things. But also, you know, when people do use your elevator, depending on how well you've set up the energy, they'll, you know, feel better about you and give you discounts on stuff or just like you, you know, like you more. Your sort of reputation varies based on...
I kind of like the idea that as you're going through this game, different things that you have can either start collecting energy or it can be poisoned by the energy. Like, effectively, you can have a pot plant there that starts to wither and put off worse energy because you've fed it the wrong type of energy. I was going to say, I think
you could have types of energy. So I'm actually picturing like a quite in-depth
big systems-based.
Yeah, systems-based, like almost an airflow simulation. I don't know if you've played Oxygen Not Included, which is like it's a base building game sort of thing set on an asteroid where you're mining and stuff. But they've got some really cool visualizations for how the different gases in there are like flowing and mixing and stuff. I'm picturing that, but in 3D, which, I think these days you could probably do a reasonable version of that. And so, you see.
I'm sure the 2-minute papers have like a good like demonstration of how airflow works.
Oh,
and
I'm
all
sure.
This sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm now picturing that when you go up to, the musical area and the doors open and depending on, how you've got, the the energy coming out of your area, how it could actually, interact with the floor that you're on, and some of their ambience comes in and cancels out.
Yeah. Well, you could tie the different types of energy to the different floors almost. So you've got like the musical, the musical floor gives a certain type of energy, whether that's specifically a musical energy or it's just like the light blue energy or whatever. You tie that to the musical floor. If you go to like the plant floor where they're growing stuff, they grow all the food and they're essentially farming and stuff, that's the purple energy. And the different things that you get from each of them, will like give off and also react to different types of energy in different ways. So like the purple energy actually matches well with the blue energy because like plants like music or whatever. But, if you go to the drugs floor,
well, I'm just imagining what happens if you go to the 6th floor, or should I say the 6th floor, because that's where they have all the sex.
Oh, the 6th floor. Okay. Yep.
The 6th floor which is on 6. And just all the red romance energy that sort of comes in and free love and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
How that kind of gets poisoned by, you've previously been on like the drugs floor or something like that.
Yeah, I think you'd have to. Yeah, you'd figure out sort of which ones affect which things differently, and you almost have to, depending on how you want your space set up, you would then have different effects on every floor, and every floor would have an effect on you. So like, you open up to the anti-vaxxers floor for too long, and all of their fucking green energy comes in. I guess the plants might be green energy. Whatever. Dark green energy comes flowing in and just like starts poisoning all your stuff. It's like, fuck, quickly, give me what I need, whatever you were down there for. And then you quickly close the door. It's like, okay, now you gotta cleanse it a bit. Ramp up some of your other energies.
Yep. Okay. 3, 2, 1, click.
Yeah, let's move on. This almost would have gone well with the other one. Anyway, Rose seeing.
Illogical taxi.
Geez, we're really leaning into that the 2 meter space is a vehicle thing. Okay.
It's not my fault. I'm literally pressing it once and there's like illogical taxi. Okay, so what is an illogical taxi?
Well, with Rose,
I mean, we've done.
Maybe this is a like in miniature sort of thing where it's like around insects that like taxi, what sort of insect would taxi around the other denizens of this environment? Like it's set in a garden on a windowsill or whatever, or on a terrace.
Had we not already done time taxi before, I was going to say, let's do something about a time taxi. Because again, illogical. And taxi and...
I mean, a logical taxi would sort of mean you pick someone up and then take them nowhere and then drop them off again. Like it takes away. Like there's no logic to this taxi. It doesn't actually help you with anything. It does the opposite. Or like you take them in the opposite direction. You have to take them as far away from their destination as possible.
So if they want to get some roses, then you literally take them to like the desert where there's no plants.
Well, we don't have to go with it could just be it could almost be one of these things where you pick someone up, they tell you where you want to go, you start heading in the wrong direction. They're like, "What are you doing? You're taking me in the wrong direction." You're like, "It's fine." Lock the doors. they're trying to get out at every stop, and you just have to get as far as you can without slowing down long enough for them to open the doors and jump out or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay. I'm picturing that the first part of the game, someone comes into your taxi and they're bleeding.
Okay.
And they're like, take me to a hospital.
Take me to the hospital, yeah.
And you drive.
And you drive away from every hospital.
You've got a GPS and
sorry, I just had a vision.
It highlights all the hospitals and you drive.
Well, I just had a vision of you put the GPS on to their destination and then you just drive away from which way it's telling you. And it's constantly just saying do a U-turn. Do a U-turn. That's just the constant refrain of the whole game is the GPS telling you to do a Yui.
The game is called Chuck a Yui.
Chuck a Yui. Our character's name is Chuck Ewing. Wait, isn't that a thing? That was a basketball player or something. No, that was Patrick Ewing.
Yes. And Chuck Yeager was
Yeager. I feel like it was Chuck Ewing is a CEO of Appliance Factory, but I don't think that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay.
Okay, so because it's a taxi, what's the most illogical thing that could happen in a taxi? They don't ask for a fare.
All right, so you drive. So the thing is that you drive them as far away from their destination as possible. They're trying to get out the whole time. But when you finally decide, okay, this is far enough, you give them money and they're like, oh, okay. No, I'm happy now. That's fine. You paid me $700.
This is kind of like Cash Cab, but I didn't have to do any...
Yeah, and you didn't tell me what was happening and I'm still bleeding to death, but at least you gave me $700 because of how far you drove me away from all hospitals.
Okay, that's just insanity. Let's go again.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, no.
Cross booking.
Crushing narrow. So immediately I thought trash compactor from Star Wars.
That's where my mind went to. The whole game's set in the trash.
It's an Airbnb, and two people have got the same booking for the trash compactor, and they've put a line down the middle. Okay. This is a cool couch co-op game.
Yep.
In which you're kind of like the odd couple.
Yep.
Of trying to keep all your stuff on your own side.
But the walls
as everything
slowly
starts crushing in together, and you're just trying to keep all your stuff on, or keep the majority of the room. Basically, you're trying to somehow.
All right, so maybe the walls come in at different different sides come in at different times or something.
You're trying to keep the most of your stuff alive. So that determines the percentage of the room that you actually keep. Basically, if all your stuff is surviving.
Okay. How does it get destroyed? Just by actually being crushed between walls, essentially?
By crushed, and I'm thinking it's kind of like a game where you're running around trying to, position the broom, across, and it gets crushed. And it's like, okay, great. I got rid of their broom, and, I got rid of their lamppost because
so you can move all their stuff.
And they're moving your stuff, and so you've got to try and keep your stuff out and while destroying theirs. And
yeah, there's definitely something here. I'm not sure we've quite found the interesting balance of how it works yet. Because I'm picturing essentially it starts off, you've got this room and you've got a bunch of stuff each, and it might be like a desk, a chair, a fridge, whatever. And I don't think you worry too much about how heavy things are. It's just you can move them all around. You can kind of place them. But you're almost in an Overcooked kind of way. You're like moving your character, like pick it up here, put it over there. And then something determines when which wall's going to move when. Either it's random or they're going in a regular.
The top wall starts closing in. It's fuck you.
The top's coming down there. I think if something is against the wall, it will just move with the wall unless something's blocking it on the other side. So yes, it's about. Oh, do you maybe only have a certain number of moves or something, or a certain? I guess the time could be a thing, but I'm just trying to think of how you strategize where you place things without it just turning all into chaos. I mean, obviously, a bit of chaos is good as long as it's
chaos.
Control. There needs to be strategic chaos though. Like you need to be able to strategize on how to win.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of you get their sofa and their fridge sort of along the edge, and as it crushes, obviously you're destroying their sofa and their fridge is sort of getting buckled in. And
I feel like that you should maybe only be able to move your own stuff though, because otherwise it just becomes a race of like
how much can you fuck their shit up?
Yeah. Whereas if it's more about like, oh, well, I've only got a certain amount of time, so I'm going to put my couch here, but then they also like maybe it's around the strength of things. Like if they put their fridge where you've put your couch, like the couch is going to buckle before the fridge. So when they hit each other and the walls are coming in, they've saved their fridge and destroyed your couch or something. Like
there is definitely something
the fridge
here,
takes longer to move or something because it's heavier, right? Like. Yeah.
There's definitely something here. I still don't think we've got it yet. I think only being able to move your own stuff basically means once they put something in a good position, you can't do anything about it, and that's kind of like not fun.
Well, but I think you'd almost have to have a bit of...
Then the meta becomes, okay, I've got a fridge and a couch. Okay, I put them like this, and that's, this is an unbeatable situation sort of thing.
Well, I think you'd have to have a bit of a rock, paper, scissors almost between what sorts of things can beat what things. Like maybe a fridge, because maybe the heavier things actually take damage from being pushed by the walls or something. So, yes, you can put it in a good position if something's coming up against it, but if the wall it's on is moving, like it's going to take damage or something like that. I think there are ways you could probably balance that.
Mm-hmm. So how many different parts of the wall do you think are closing in then?
I was thinking like literally all four walls could be moving just at different times.
So it starts out as a much bigger area than what we're really allowed in today's game.
Yeah, I guess so. We'll let it slide because it ends up at in a 2 meter by 2 meter area.
It ends up even worse than that. Like, it ends up as a 2 centimeter by 2 centimeter sort of situation.
Yeah.
So I just had this thought of because it's the four walls that are closing in, like everything sort of gets stretched into like a long noodle sort of thing. Because it's very tall.
Yeah. So I was just thinking though, okay, I wonder if there's something to be said here, instead of being competitive, whether there's a cooperative sort of aspect here of like that you can slow the closing of the walls by bracing it with different things.
Mm-hmm.
So like you've got this place, and you know that the walls start moving every 20 seconds and they'll crush for 5 seconds. But if you can brace it during the time, then they won't actually come in as much or at all, depending on how strong that brace is. But it will slowly be damaging those things. So it's about like deciding on what to put in there. And maybe at the same time you have aspects of like trying to live your life. So you're like, oh, but I'm hungry. I need to get something from the fridge. Oh shit, we broke the fridge.
But the toaster still works. Is there some bread here somewhere and I can make some toast?
Or something like, and maybe you can replace
dry toast is better than nothing.
Maybe you can replace things over time, or like maybe there's some like, and it's really about like how long can you survive, and it sort of gets frantic with, you're moving slower because you're hungry, but you haven't earned enough money because like maybe you have to actually like spend time on your computer working, and that like raises your money up, and then you can get like a new fridge delivered when you've got enough money or something. So you can cycle through, but it depends on how much time you spend in different things.
Now I'm getting the picture of this is just a level of Overcooked in which you're trying to prepare meals and stuff, but everything keeps on being compressed. And therefore, you're sort of walking over each other to try and.
I mean, geez, with the number of levels, I'd be surprised if they hadn't done something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I think it's just you're changing up the sorts of things you're having to do. Because, yeah, I kind of like that. I kind of like that loop of, like, earning money. But, you know, if you're spending time on your computer earning money, then you're not moving things into position to like, brace the next crushing. Yeah, anyway, that's kind of fun. All right, but I think we can click again.
Okay, I'm gonna throw something out there that's really gonna challenge us.
Okay.
3, 2, 1 movie.
Okay. So we're going to play a game where we get a movie title and or description. And we're going to use that to do a game. And as the rules are today, we're going to somehow set that into a 2 meter by 2 meter space. All right. I have Joe Bell this year. In fact, released last week. Well, 2 weeks ago, the 23rd of July. I think that's Mark Wahlberg. It's a weird sort of semi-Photoshop thing. The true story of a small-town working-class father who embarks on a solo walk across the US to crusade against bullying after his son is tormented in high school for being gay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My movie is from 2008 called The Burrowers. Not The Borrowers, but The Burrowers.
Burrowers with a U.
Yeah. Set in 1879.
Okay.
A band of men set out to find and recover family settlers that has mysteriously vanished from their home. Expecting the offenders to be a band of fierce natives, they soon discover that the real enemy stalks them from below. My thought was that you could set this in, like, it's just after you get there, you find out that it's actually something is under the ground.
Uh-huh.
And you sort of lock yourself either in the outhouse or you lock yourself in something, like maybe even a trailer.
Mm.
And now it's about, can you call for help from within your trailer?
Are we setting it in the 1800s or whatever?
No, I like the idea of something underneath the ground.
We're just taking underneath the ground from that. Yeah, that's fine.
This is the reason why you cannot leave the trailer. Yeah.
Essentially, there's some sort of horror movie creature that burrows under the ground, like detects sound, detects people above the ground and devours them.
Mm.
And you are trying to... So is this a known thing? Like, is this like in this town we know about these things and this person's taken a risk going out there because they thought they could make it in time or something, or, you know, they really need to take a
I like
shit?
the idea that this is a new thing. Like, this is set in a trailer park.
Okay.
And you've just awoken to the screams of one of your neighbors. And you look out through the window and you see as your neighbor's being pulled under their veranda, like that they've got on their trailer.
Yeah.
And they vanish and there's just like a splurt of blood that's sort of out in the dust.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I like this. I like that. You don't start alone necessarily. You see that, but then there are other people around in their like RVs and trailers and whatever. And you have some dialogue with them. And then one of them like says, no, like I've got to go help them, and like goes out onto the ground, and you get an even better glimpse of like, oh no, something took them. Like, okay, we can't go on the ground.
Well, I like the idea that your character's name is Edna. So you've been there for quite a while. You know, everyone sort of knows you.
You're kind of the mother hen of this trailer park. Like you're the
Charlie
matriarch.
sort of calls out to make sure that you're okay. And, you know, I think Charlie's dog wakes up and comes out of his house, and you see literally the thing burrower come up, grab Charlie's dog and just rip it to pieces. And, you know, so you kind of know that you can have that conversation with Charlie. There's a bit of scary shit actually happening here, but, you know, all in all, it's now a story about what can you two do together. You're in one trailer, he's in another, and you're sort of asking for help. And, obviously, I think the the mobile phones or whatever, you don't actually have any, so you're trying to work out a way.
Maybe I don't mind
calling for help.
I don't mind having calling for help. Like I think in this situation though, even if
anyone who gets close,
even if someone were to like maybe they can't even drive cars close, right? Like the vibrations cause it to come, and someone tries to come. You do call someone. You call your niece
your
or
daughter.
Something. And like they come driving up, but as soon as they get too close, like this thing, I'm sort of picturing a thing with like big sharp pincers that come up, but then also like to pull it down into like a big gaping maw of teeth. Yeah. Like these big pincer things just like stab the car, like, pierce right through it, pull half of it down into the mouth of this thing.
Ooh, and your daughter makes it out, but is just literally sitting on the boot of the car.
Yeah.
Like, and she can't sort of, maybe at one stage there's a thing where she has to like, the floor is lava over to your trailer.
Yeah.
So she's like jumping and you've got to try and,
maybe you've got to like try to distract the thing. Right? Because if you figure out that it's like sound, like vibrations or something on the earth that are detecting it, her jumping could still detect it, but not if you've like thrown rocks in the opposite direction and you can see the tremors under the ground where it's, where this thing is. That's cool. You're essentially working out and I think good horror movies do this, like working out the rules of this creature. And then figuring out ways to get around it and putting some interesting
so I think Charlie is getting really distraught, and he ends up turning to the drink a little bit because he's lost his best mate, which is
his dog. Yeah,
his dog. And it's then you got to try and calm him down from when he wants to end it all and run out, and he can't live without his best friend. But of course, you need something from him before, like, in order to be able to get through this whole thing.
Yeah, I think I'm picturing a lot of this as very dialogue driven, really, and very
dialogue and
narrative,
somewhat puzzle based.
Yeah, kind of puzzle based of how you choosing to do things. Certainly, but really based around these relationships in this park and relationships between these people. As they tackle this, very much like Stephen King's The Mist. Like, it's not really about, like, obviously the monster is the common threat and it will rear its head up at certain moments in the story to, again, to sort of set the boundaries of the rules so you understand what the threat is. But most of the story is actually around like dealing with these different people and the relationships between them. And you've got the gung-ho person over here who's just like, no, let's just blow everything up. Like, I've got dynamite in my truck. Like, let's lure it over and we're going to throw it into its mouth or whatever. But, he ends up blowing himself up or something and hurting other people. I don't know, like shit goes wrong. How do they solve it? Do they defeat this thing? Or is it the few main characters manage to escape and get out of the area and they've left a, trail as this thing devours the rest of the trailer park or something?
I kind of like the idea because of the whole 2 meter square thing that your character can't leave, but you can somewhat sacrifice, your life to help the other characters all escape.
That could be interesting. I was picturing your daughter or niece, whichever we went with, like them and Charlie end up, like that they have a thing going on or something, a romantic thing. And so it could be that, you sacrifice yourself to let them get away. Basically. That could be kind of
Now, I don't think it's a simple thing of you walk out there, but you're sort of causing a racket, you're throwing things out into the yard and sort of drawing them away from.
Yeah. I think it's they need enough time to get away, and maybe it ends up being that like you literally like you start up. Maybe it's that you're in an RV, like you've been living in this RV for 20 years and it hasn't driven in that whole time, and so the puzzle essentially is like you need to get this thing started because you're going to sacrifice yourself by just starting up this fucking dusty old RV that's probably going to backfire and whatever, and really like, and this thing's just going to try to devour the whole RV.
I'm almost thinking that maybe you can play around with this character hasn't actually left the RV in a long time. The daughter or the niece or whatever like comes and drops off.
They're essentially, you know,
not necessarily agoraphobic.
Not necessarily agoraphobic. They're just comfortable where they are. They're somewhat institutionalized into this. I say institutionalized. It's not an institution, but like they are. There is anxiety around leaving this place because it's their comfort zone, which I guess is a sort of a type of agoraphobia, I think. But but essentially they don't want to leave generally, and it becomes this thing of like, oh well, I've lived here this long, I'm going to die here. Like if it means you know escaping, and living your lives, Because then you can have a great scene of like this thing starts devouring your RV from the other end, and you're just seeing these like pincers and these teeth like attacking it, and you can look around, you see them driving off, getting out of the range as this thing just like comes closer and closer. That's and then cuts
to black just as it's sort of its pincers close.
Yeah,
but if you wait till the end of the credits and you haven't like hit the skip and anything like that, you hear like you see almost the eyes sort of open, that gradually blinking, and you hear Edna's voice sort of go, and it's like that's where it sort of cuts out, and so she still has
her story will continue.
Potentially a story will continue, but
she's missing some limbs.
Well, maybe she's got the will to get out now. Like,
yeah.
She's lost her sort of comfort zone.
Yeah.
And now she's back for revenge. And the next game in the series is literally
this like kick-ass fucking monster hunter. Now it's in a world where these things have infested the planet, and she's trying to hunt for the one that like destroyed her RV. All right, I think we've got time for one more. Do you want to do another movie?
Yep.
The Nun, the 2018 horror movie. I haven't actually seen that. I've heard it's good.
2020 horror movie called Shifter.
Ooh.
A young woman struggles with the painful and gruesome side effects of an experiment with time travel gone wrong that causes her to lose control and shift through time at random.
That's cool. I think we go with that. Because that gives us a lot we can do with a small space.
Could you imagine like jumping through time in like a small apartment? Like, let's not go with the 2x2 meter.
That's fine. We can expand that a little. Yeah.
Apartment. And it's basically anytime that you go to leave the apartment, like immediately you get like launched through time into like.
So like every time you open the door to the apartment, it like opens to a different time.
Yeah. So you can cause time loops that way, or you'll just randomly move and shift through to another apartment at some time.
Oh, so you're saying you move from one to the, like you do actually travel from one to the other, but it's like another version of your apartment in a different time that you've traveled through this door to go into.
So it's randomly picking times. Like you can tell that it's sort of just different years based on the decor of the apartment. I think the apartment's been there for a long time. One of the time periods, there's a family like having dinner, and you just appear in the middle of the room, and they're just like,
well, I'm almost picturing you appear, or I'm almost picturing you like you've almost got these mirrored versions of the apartment where you open the door, which should go onto a hallway, but it literally opens into a mirrored version of your apartment from a different time, and you go in, but now you're in that time, and you're figuring out like when you are, what's happening, and then if you open it again, it's like it takes you into the same thing, but in the other time, in yet another time. Just because that could be no randomness. It's just. Well, I think it depends on what sort of game we want to make this. So I'm almost picturing it as a puzzle-ish adventure game where each of the times has some things to solve. So there are going to be a fixed number of time periods, whether it's random between them or they loop in some order or there's some way that you learn to control which one you're going to maybe. So maybe they're random to start with, but then you figure out something.
If I carry, this particular thing from the 1960s, I go to the 1960s apartment.
Yeah, maybe it's like there's some connection with the items from that time that will, that will take you back there. And that could be interesting because it's like, oh, okay, I've got that like figurine from the 1960s. I brought it into the 2070s. But I didn't want to go back to the 1960s, so I had to leave it in the 2070s, right? So if I want to ensure that I get back to the 1960s, I might have to go via the 2070s or whatever, right? Like, yeah, that could be cool.
Okay, my question is, what happens when you've got the 1960s figurine, you're in the 1960s, and you open the door? Where do you end up?
I mean, I think maybe it's just random at that point. Or
do you end up back in the 1960s where it's flipped around the other way? So there's like the mirror universe and then there's the normal one.
I guess it depends on if we wanted puzzles to be around the flippiness of it or if that's more of just a way to have the connections between them. That could be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think that would come down to what sort of puzzles we wanted to make. But yeah, I'm basically thinking that you've got maybe like 5 or 6 time zones or some time periods.
I was thinking 5 or 6.
And then
6, I think, is a nice round number.
Yeah, 6 is probably fine. It gives you enough variety. But that basically in each of them, yes, you've got things in that room that tell you about what's happening there, and puzzles to solve in some way. Yeah. Like you're trying to help someone there or, just figure out what happened there or something. Like maybe, like the far future one is it's after the apocalypse and like it's literally open to the elements and there's, fucking dust bowl and whatever, however you want to do it. Or it's all frozen over or something and everyone's dead and there's skeletons in the corner. And it's like, oh, figure out what happened, go back in time and stop it. Or it might be that there's an overarching puzzle as well.
Well, okay. So what was this experiment that went wrong? Is your work, are you from the 2070s and
I mean
you work at the time taxi cab rank or whatever?
I don't know if we even want to explain it like that. I wonder if you're just almost a regular person who's got caught up in some sort of, maybe it is that like, yeah, in the 2070s, somebody else has converted this apartment into their experimentation lab for time travel. And so you living there in the 2020s got caught up in that because essentially
because you were put into lockdown at the wrong time.
Yes. Essentially this apartment has now, this is the one space that's connected through time now, due to something somebody else has done. And then that can be one of the puzzles you're solving essentially is like, how did this happen? And you'll find when you get to the 2070s that you start getting those clues. And I don't know, I'm torn on whether there are any people in any of the other times or not.
I think in the 1960s, there's a family, and that's it. Like, whether you can interact with them or whether they just
don't see you,
blankly stare at the TV, eat or halfway through eating a TV dinner or something like that,
frozen or moving slowly or something. Yeah, maybe
because then that something has changed because they're in a slightly different position now. Like, time has actually moved forward.
We could do some different things, actually, though. So some of the puzzles... So, yeah, I like that. The 1960s, they're moving slowly. But then some of the puzzles you could do there, once you sort of figure out... because I think you learn stuff about that family then, and maybe what happened after that led to something else. You can start changing things to solve puzzles. And so that in that one, yeah, they don't see you, but you can come in and you're essentially, it's as if things are moving really fast for them. But then in another one, it could be in like the 80s or something. It's more like every time you come into that room, they can see you, but it's the same every time. It's like you're coming in the same time every time, and they're seeing you for the first time every time. And so that's more of like a time loop sort of situation where, oh, well, I'm going to go back to the 1980s now that I've got this particular thing from the 1960s or whatever, because I know that's going to solve a puzzle there, because when I get there, they're going to say this, and if I say this, they're going to say this, but then if I've got this item, like, it's going to, that's a new thing we can do, like they're going to react to that in some way. And yeah.
So rather than the 2070s, I now want to make it even so that all the time periods are like 60s, 80s, 2000s, 20s, 40s. And it comes back to the 60s again. So it's in 2060. So it's like 100 years, but it seems to be that
every 20 years. Yeah, that makes sense. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I think like there's, and again, I think every time frame essentially has different types of puzzles. So some of them there's nobody else there.
It is just all the same date.
Yeah.
Like
it's the
29th of February.
Yeah, we're both going there. It's going to be a leap year. Yeah, for sure. It's the 29th of February. But yes, I think like, the 2000s, it's an empty apartment. Like, so there's a lot of environmental storytelling. Maybe you can see stuff out the window that's happening or something like, and so, that's sort of what the puzzles are in that space, versus, sort of more dialogue puzzles in one where you've got a time loop going, you've got the slow motion-y sort of puzzles. When you get to the 2040s, that's where the time travel, that's when it's a lab. And, maybe there's puzzles there where like dialogue puzzles, because you're able to communicate like with the scientist who's outside of the apartment, because they've literally just set off they've just started the experiment, and all of a sudden some person from the 2020s has just shown up in his apartment. Basically, they've got cameras and things. Like, it could almost be that. And then, yes, the 2060s is like post-apocalyptic, or something. So that's cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. I like it because it's, you can play with the different tropes of different time travel things, time loops. You can play with, time slowing down, time speeding up. Like, maybe one of the places that you go to, things just are running on fast forward, and you've only got a certain amount of time in the place before, something happens. Yeah,
that could be interesting. You, like, get sucked back through the door after a certain amount of time. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. There's a lot you could do with that. That'd be a fun challenge to write that and figure out those puzzles. But I think in keeping with the one location, essentially, that's cool.
And I really kind of want to watch that movie, so I'm going to try and find it. Because it sounds like a really cool idea for a movie.
Yeah. All right. I think we're going to end it there. So thank you for joining us this week on Bitstorm. If you want to listen to any or all of our previous episodes, go to podchaser.com/Bitstorm. And
as we said at the start, there's lots of them, and they all sound pretty cool.
There's some good stuff in there. Go back and find that phone booth. Game that was there that Trevor completely forgot about. We've done so many games on this show, we've forgotten about half of them. So let us know if you find a good one. Leave a review.
Okay, we'd also like to thank the wonderful musicians over at Kuridos for allowing us to use their song Mount Defiance off of their album Containment Failure. It's been out for 12 years now?
Nearly. It was started 2010.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was. Oh, because I keep on thinking about 2009 is when we actually recorded it.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Go check that out. So thank you again for joining.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're like two members of Kuridos.
Yeah, it's out.
If you've never heard this before, I play the bass. He sang.
Yeah.
Like, we've got some other friends who did like the guitars and drums.
The other stuff. So
the
thank
non-important
you.
stuff.
So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And where you heading, mate?
Just take me down the road to the Macca's. I just want some food.
All right, chucking a Yui away from the Macca's. Let's go.
No, I want to go to the Macca's.